Welcome to the Ahead of the Curve series. This is the third series. So today we are going to talk about AEM, one of the popular counter, which unfortunately we took two stop loss on this same counter within 2011. And AEM is the first counter that we have taken two stop loss in a row for 2021. So I believe this session will be a good time to talk about why AEM trade was taken and why stop loss was also hit for two of these trades. So although Ahead of the Curve series is meant to, of course, primarily I want to show profitable counters and the justification why those trades are taken. It is good to balance out with showing a few trades that where loss were taken. So everyone have to understand that trading is not predicting whether a stock can go up or not, but rather we are trying to play a game of probability, and as a game of probability there will definitely be losses. So there's no point in showing everything that's going profit without sort of going through some of the loss as well. And what you will notice is that whenever I take a trade, most of the time the reasoning is all the same. The trade setup criteria, the kind of chart pattern that I take is usually same across majority of my trade, about 90% of them. Probably there will be like 10% where I try to break a little bit of rule here and there, and maybe I might end up a profit or I might end up in a loss. Nobody knows. One of the example that I can give you about a trade that excuse me, about a trade that actually I broke some of my trading rule is Semcorp Marine. So Semcorp Marine, earlier this year we managed to hit a TP, which was good, but sometime last year in 2020, probably around November, December, I also broke my rule to enter Semcorp Marine back then, and actually back then we hit a loss. So in a way, it is that there's no. The point is that there is no telling of the future, just because I am entering with the same setup, same strategy, right? It is not going to come out always profit. It is like flipping a coin. The coin is the same. My strategy is the same. My strategy is I would say is fixed. So whether or not it will profit or loss is a big question mark. But the thing is, over my course of trading career, over 8 years of trading this same trade setup that I take, my win-loss ratio is about 70%. So that even with a winning rate as high as 70%, you are bound to going to be hit with a few losses here and there. And in fact, if you look at my trading statistic in the Google Drive, you will notice that that ratio is somewhat around there. Eventually, a trade will start to close. Then they will either hit the profit or they will hit the loss. So it is a game of probability. So now let's look at specifically AEM. So the very first trade for AEM came out earlier, February 15. So that was quite earlier in this year. So let's look at February 15. But before we go to that, let's look at the trade itself. So this one was a very, I would say, clear-cut entry. It was a breakout above the resistance. And the stop loss was at 3.8. So if I played this, we actually hit stop loss sometime around 8th of March. And in fact, if you look at it, right, it is like we essentially bought at the top. It went all the way down. So let's take a look at that trade, okay? So that trade is right here. We essentially bought at the top and we hit the stop loss at 3.80. Somewhere around here. Okay, so that is our stop loss. Firstly, I'd like to explain the entry criteria for this itself. So it is a very simple breakout trade. So number one Number one, we broke through this resistance here, this hammer, this shooting star hammer candle. And secondly, we broke through a much more major resistance at this point. Okay, in fact, this chart pattern sort of indicate that this resistance has been tested to become support, hence it goes up. And even when it's going up, right, the volume was quite strong and the candle itself was quite strong also. It's a very bullish candle. And given that there is some volume momentum behind it, the breaking of resistance, closing at a almost day high. Not only that, the trend itself is going up. So everything seems to be like green light everywhere. And you will realize that I do not have any indicator here. My trade setup doesn't use any form of indicator at all. Except for one secret indicator, but that secret indicator doesn't determine where my entry price is. My cost people will know about that secret indicator. Okay, so it does seems like everything is pointing to the up direction. So the thing is, when I say trading is a probability, right? If you are going to take this kind of trade setup 100 times, out of the 100 times, you will probably succeed 70 times. But there will be that 30 times that somehow it just go down and hit your stop loss. The why behind why the price go down is not important, because it is almost impossible for you to predict or go and find out the exact reason why. It is always after the price hit down, right? Then all the news come out, all the explanation come out. But at this moment when you are looking at this chart, right, you will never know that it is going to go down because everything is pointing to the top. So let's say if you take a loss on this trade and in the future you are going to avoid all this kind of trade setup, right? What is going to happen is that you are going to lose out a winning setup that is 70% accurate, just because of that 30% probability that you have taken a loss. It is like as if I told you that I have this coin, I flip the percentage of head showing up is 70%. It is a buyer's coin lah. And the percentage of the tail showing up is 30%. So just because one tail show up, are you going to stop playing this coin altogether? Because you can keep betting head and eventually you will win a lot of money. But somehow because of the one tail, you say that, okay, I'm not going to play this coin anymore. So also that's not the case. And that is not how you should be going about trading. The general mindset behind trading should not be like that. You should be very well aware that at its core, trading is about probability. So that's why I will continue to take trade, even though maybe some of the trade setup I will hit the loss. But I know that if I keep taking this trade setup, right, about 70% of the time I am going to be turn up profitable. So with this trade specifically, right, I have gone you why I entered, but I'm now going to tell you why the stop loss. So the stop loss was placed at 380. Okay, so why was it placed at 380? Okay, 37930. Okay, so number one, right, I want to place it slightly below the turning point. But this turning point is too narrow. It's too speculative. So if I sort of, let's say, if I were to place my stop loss right here, the chances of it coming back down and going back up, if I place my stop loss here, the chances of it going down here and then going back up is very high. So here definitely cannot, it's too narrow. And I also do not wish to place my stop loss here because it is too wide. If it's going to go down all the way, right, I would rather be out earlier rather than holding this entire way down. So this stop loss at $3 is also too wide. So the middle ground is, of course, I take this as a sort of turning point, and I place my stop loss at 7.80, mainly because I also do not want to place my stop loss right at the support, at least give some breathing room. So that's the reason why the support is there. Meaning, suppose one day if the price come down like this, I am still in the trade. If the price come down like this, I am still in the trade. But if price come down here, right, then I do not wish to be in the trade ready. Then I will decide to cut loss lah. So that's basically my thought process behind this particular trade. So when the price hit the stop loss, right, I am not going to question anything. I'm not going to wait for the day to end, wait for it to rebound, wait for this, wait for that. No, the moment price hit that stop loss price, I'm going to exit with no hesitation, totally zero hesitation, exit and out. So I think there was one comment on my Facebook. One guy was asking me, how come I always stop cut loss on AEM? So I understand his question. He's probably coming from the fundamental perspective, and he said, "Oh, probably AEM is a very good company lah. FA good, this good, profit good, that good. How come I'm cutting loss?" But the thing is, when I'm trading, I am not trading with the fundamental mindset. Thus, my trade setup, my statistic, my whole trade system that I forward tested and backward tested, right? It doesn't rely on fundamental. So I cannot simply just neglect and throw away my entire trading style just to fit into one fundamental thing, and it will throw my entire trading style of the course lah, and it will start to affect my trading statistic even more. So for example, if you are someone who trade with that fundamental, right, then good for you, you go ahead and trade your style. I'm sure you have your own statistic done on your own trading style, which you find it very profitable. But when you are trading, right, you do need to rely on what you are actually doing. For me, I'm always doing based on technical analysis, my usual approach to placing a proper stop loss, my usual entry criteria. With all this, right, I have a profitable trading system, and regardless of what outside factor, fundamental this, news that, fundamental this, right, I don't really care. I just obey my stop loss. Hence, this is also a very important skill that many trader lacks. Because someone says a bit of things, someone just points some a little hope in your direction, right? You abandon your entire trading style and you hold on to the hope. You end up holding on to this counter very, very long, and then end up from a small loss become a big loss. Another thing is, does it mean that when the price hit 3.80, it is going to go all the way down? Is it possible that when price hit 3.80, it can recover? Yes, it is definitely possible to recover. But the thing is that if you ask me if it's possible to recover, then why did I stop? Why did I take the stop? The answer is very simple, because that is my style. Let's say if I break my style and I hold this one time and it recovers, what happened is I am being rewarded for a bad decision. And if you keep making this kind of bad decision, which is not cutting your loss when your SL hit, right, it will come and bite you back in all your future trades. You will always tell, you will always tell yourself that, hey, that time I hold on to my position without cutting my loss, or I get profit leh. So you get profit that one time, but the thing is, in the next 10 time, right, you are going to hold on to all your losses and you are going to lose a lot of time. You are going to lose a lot of money. So you need to always think from that perspective. You need to think in terms of large number of trades, because just because of this one little scenario, you cannot let it affect your overall trading profile, your overall trading system. Okay, so that is the most important thing that I want to emphasize, because a lot of trader lacks that. A lot of trader always depend on this, depend on that, depend on a lot of people, but they lacks the ability to follow a proper system. In Nimbus Capital, I give you the system, and that system works. Whether you follow it or not, that is on your end. In fact, I have provided a proper lot sizing strategy. I have provided that the rules that you must follow at all costs, but there will definitely be a lot of people out there who doesn't follow all these and end up in a very bad trade. For this kind of people, there is essentially no way for me to help them lah. But if you are following all the proper rules and all the formulas that I set out for you, right, you will definitely be fine. You will definitely hit a few stop loss here and there, but in the long run, you are going to be fine. So eventually, this trade hit the stop loss. And somewhere around March, there was a second trade that came in. So the second trade was here on this candle. Okay, so this was the second trade. So let's look at the second trade. So this second trade was on 24th March. Okay, let's take a look at it. Here, what happened is that eventually we hit the stop loss again. So now let's take a look at this second trade and the criteria behind it. Okay, so for second trade, right? The reason for entry is very simple. The initial trade, right? This was the resistance, but now we are back below the resistance already. So I'm looking back at this resistance level here, this resistance here. So same thing. What happened is it come back down, test this resistance, and it rebound back up. So I assume that this resistance is now become a support. It is the same setup pattern as here, but what you will notice is that when it come down and touch this, right, I didn't immediately buy. I wait for a good bullish candle to come out. Okay, good bullish there, and then I buy. So it is the same setup as here. Resistance, test as support, bullish candle to confirm. So this bullish candle confirm this support. But because of this, right? Because of this justification, my stop loss was placed at 3.5, meaning I am assuming this is now the support. I do not want my stop loss to be right at the support. I put it slightly lower. Make sure that there's some breathing room, because who knows, it can come down and go up again. This is a very common possibility, and a lot of traders always miss trade because they place their stop loss right at the support level. So I give some breathing room there lah, and even so this is the trade I'm taking. But now that we are back down from this high here, right, I can actually place my TP here already, because this is the resistance there, and I can take this trade to here lah. Okay, so that was basically my trade plan. And of course, what happened is that, so when I entered this trade, right, it is not because I entered AEM before or what, but rather this trade just meet all the criteria that I would normally enter. Hence, I enter. So after that, as we all know, we hit the stop loss on yesterday, I believe. And when the stop loss of it was hit, again, very simple, no emotion, no waiting here, waiting there, no waiting game involved, simply just exit. So after I exited, it was like, that's it. So let's say maybe in one weeks from now, if another trade setup on AEM come out, and if it fits all my entry criteria, will I enter or not? The answer is yes, I will enter again. The reason why this AEM I want to bring it during this series is because I told you that my winning rate is about 70%. So the losing rate is of course around 30%. Within that 30%, right, it is extremely rare to hit the same counter twice within that 30%. And because AEM hit this, right, I sort of bring this up. So if you were involved in trading in Nimbus Capital since last year, right, we hit quite a few stop loss, but there wasn't any case of hitting the same counter twice in a row. Like. In fact, for this year, we are almost going to 100 trade already. The latest trade setup that I posted was 97. So if you counter all the trade setup that was back when Patreon first started in 2020 November, I think I have about close to 150 trade setup. And within that 150 trade setup, right, AEM was the very first counter that that hit stop loss twice lah. So it is a very unlikely percentage if you want to be very mathematical about it. Hence, it deserves a highlight lah. I will say. So because the stop loss here is now hit, right? I took the loss and I simply exited. So how much did this 2 AEM loss affected my portfolio? So actually AEM, right, the first trade I took the trade, the second trade, I also took the trade. In fact, I'm involved in both AEM trade, and I did lost quite a bit on AEM trade. So let's look at my portfolio. So this is my current 2021 portfolio. Currently, I am up by 27.75%. These are all my holdings right now. I actually have a lot of open position. So if you look at my open position, right at the top, you have Southern Alliance. Southern Alliance, I definitely TP here. I have TP about $4,000 here, but as you all know, right, I always keep a little bit of shares left behind. I don't TP 100% fully. I leave that little bit behind, and then that bit that I left behind, right, actually is 7,007 lots only. And now that 7 lots contribute to the highest open position in my portfolio. If you look at my close trade for Southern Alliance, it's 38 lots. If you compare 7 lots to 38 lots, right, it's a big difference, you know. And this 38 lots only give me 4.9K, but that 7 lots that I still have, that I'm still holding, is giving me almost about the same amount of profit. So this is one of my profit trailing strategy that I take lah. And in fact, in my course, I go through in detail how to execute this trailing strategy properly. And you can see that my US steel is still there lah. Now it is the second highest. So these are strategies that I use to get a very big winning trade. And eventually there will be more coming up to see which of the trade can hold their trend, and those that doesn't hold the trend, they will get automatically stop out by themselves lah. So if I go to the losing side, right, loss side, right, you can actually see AEM is at the top. I lost $3,000. So actually most of my loss are around 1,500, 1,600. So I took 1,005 on AEM twice, which comes up to about $3,000. Hence, I have hence the AEM losses right there, and you can see that my realized profit is actually 25K, 26K if you want to round up. My open position, the currently I'm open right now, is about 5K. My open position are now up by 5K, and you can see that I still have all the counters that I'm holding from like donkey years ago. I have Netflix, which is going to almost 2,000, but haven't hit the stop loss yet. I think barely escape. I do have people texting me that pre-market hit the stop loss, but I don't bother about pre-market. I bother about the opening bell. Johnson Electric hedge from Hong Kong also still there at 1,008, Tesla 1,003, PayPal 868, First Resources at about 180. So all these counter I'm still holding, and when I say hold until stop loss hit, right, I don't say it jokingly. I follow that rule myself very religiously, and you can see all this trade, right, I am relatively doing quite well. So if you want to look at this, right, I have about $30,000 in profit lah, with 25K close and 5K that is floating. So if I want to look at how much did the AEM loss contribute, $3,000, right? It is about 10% of my profit, and so it is roughly like 10% of my profit. And if I want to look at it as a percentage of my total portfolio, right? My total portfolio is actually currently right now close to 130K already lah, because I am up by 27%. My initial portfolio, I started out as 100K. So if I want to put 3,000 as a percentage of my total portfolio value, right, it's about 2% like that only. So that 2 trade, I actually lost only 2% of my portfolio. So as a trader, if your individual trade is losing more than 6-7% of your total portfolio, you are doing something extremely wrong. Number one, you are not following the rules that I set out for you, which is 3% maximum. Meaning right here, I am taking only 1.5% of my portfolio risk per AEM. So one AEM, I lost 1,005, the other one I lost 1,005. So it's like 1.5% of my total portfolio. So total, I took 3% loss of my total portfolio on AEM. So if you are taking more than 3% per position, right, you are doing something very wrong. So there is no point in your trading career you should ever take a very big loss. If you follow my trading style, if you follow my trading setup, if you follow exactly everything that is written in the entry pinup, the welcome post in Patreon, right? You should never ever at any point lose more than 3% on a single position. In fact, there's a formula in there that teach you how to properly calculate your lot, how many lots you should enter, so that when you hit the stop loss, right, you don't lose a lot of money. So this is very important because trading is a, like I said, probability game. You don't know when the losses are going to come in, and when the loss come, right, they can come back to back. So we have experienced that in February March period where we took about 6-7 losses back to back, and after that everything start to recover. So when that back to back loss come, right, and you are taking like 10% risk per trade, right, you only need like 6-7 losing trade to blow your entire account beyond the ability to recover, and that is not the kind of situation that you want to get into. And if you are risking only 2% per trade, right, even if you have 10 losing trade in a row, you are only going to be losing 20%. So this is a time to truly ask yourself, look at all your losing trade, how big percentage of those trade compared to your total portfolio. And if it is more than 3%, right, you are not following the Nimbus Capital trading system. I don't know what kind of stuff you are following. So that's the big disclaimer, that you must follow the rules that I set out for you for everything to work. So I do hope that this AEM loss, if you are caught in both trade, right? I do sincerely hope that you do not lose the motivation to trade, and I also hope that you do not lose too much money, because you should be following your risk management at all time. So I personally lost 3K, but it is like no biggie, because as long as I'm going to keep taking the trade, right? Eventually my portfolio will recover, even if even if I did not get any profit in AEM for this year, right? Some other counter are going to to sort of pull my portfolio back up again. So I hope this session does give you a sneak peek into my mindset on how I deal with losing trade, and how does certain losing trades impact me, and also the justification why the AEM trade was taken, and also maybe some reason why I always cut loss on AEM. So twice lah. So twice mean always lah. But to be fair, this is the very first counter that we stop loss twice. Every other counter only once, and we did not really have another trade set up for any of the counters that have been taken stop loss lah. Okay, so I wish you all a good night, and I do hope everyone learns something from this.